This is Nicole Deal. And this is, as promised, a kind of more in depth look into my process with this image that is fan art of An Enchantment of Ravens, which I absolutely love. Margaret Rogerson is amazing. Okay, so as I mentioned, I usually get to the point where I've got kind of the line art for an image where I know it's mostly going to be colored line art with maybe some painted elements. And as I mentioned, I've got this shape behind that doesn't have line art. Well, it's got those little, erased out sections, but it's supposed to recede into the background, and that's why it doesn't have like a hard edge line art. See? Okay. Here I've got a clipping mask, so I could go through and try a bunch of different kind of colors that I might like through adjustment layers, because I usually decide on colors based on playing around with them to figure out what's going to work best with the image. I usually know if I want something that's more dark or a neutral palette or kind of sweet colors such as magentas and purples, or more acidic colors like oranges and cool yellows and greens. So for this one, I kind of knew that I wanted overall neutrals with some really sweet glow. And so that's what I'm going to end up with in one of the variations. So here I'm using another clipping mask just to add some sparkly texture and a gradient, because gradients are fantastic for giving you visual flow from point A to point B. Okay, and I say a lot and okay, so I'm so sorry. Here I have my flats. As I mentioned, they're pretty neutral. I went around and using the color select or the magic wand tool to kind of select individual elements, and also use adjustment sliders to figure out exactly what hue or shade of a color I wanted. So just kind of getting the overall plan of what I want. And of course, I've got the background that also has a gradient, because again, for me, this one was a lot about vertical flow from top to bottom. Okay. And on the flat line art, the flat colors behind the line art, I've got other masks, clipped layers, okay, um, that are going to adjust kind of value and color. So here you can kind of see I've got the light source of the blue coming from below. And so a lot of the light is hitting them from the bottom, which is what I wanted. And then I've got some shadows, especially towards the top left, because I kind of want that swing, like that light to be moving us down along these vines and at a diagonal. I know words. And then again, just little bitty additions, adding some light to the bottom of the brooch here. Okay. And here are the actual line arts. And on those, I have a clipped layer that is going to give them color, because some of the line art I want to stay kind of high contrast, which means either light against dark or dark against light. But some of them I want to be softer. So that's why having a clipped layer that has the colors on top of the line is useful, because you can play around a lot with exactly what you want the line color to be without destroying the line work. Okay, so here is when I realized that I did not like Rook's face, or kind of the pose. I'd changed my mind, and so I figured, well, I usually paint over the faces a good bit anyways. I might as well just go ahead and do that. So I have a reference from Daz to give me the lighting and angle I'm looking for, and I use it loosely. And then here is the new face, and I knew I wanted to show his teeth, his pointy teeth. He's kind of somewhat in between transformation from his kind of pseudo-human form to his fae form. You can see it in his hands and his teeth. So yeah, that is why I did that. And I also adjusted her jawline a little bit because I felt like it was a little awkward. It's always a little bit of attention between trying to figure out what is going to read as semi-realistic and what's actually going to work with compositional flow. Okay, this one I am darkening up here as well as down here because I want the focal point to be here. Even though there are a lot of elements and details around them, I still want you to focus here. So I often use value and light to create that visual direction, which is, it's useful. Here is a layer just to kind of block in the shadows, assuming that the main light source is coming from kind of the blue glow down here from the whale. If you know, you know. Again, just kind of, I'm going to be adjusting like glow to both soften things and also create areas of light so that I can have my values grouped together. Okay, more glow, some blue glow down here, some warm glow down there. Behind Rook, we've got kind of this sunsetty glow. His sword as well. You can tell I'm recording this all in one go, but that's okay. Okay, so here we have some warping, transformation of the face. I'm just trying to figure out like what's going to look good. And with faces, there is a lot of, in general for me, a lot of adjustment and warping and just trying to move things around so that it looks good and it fits with the rest of the image. And now we're going to get a more glow. Specifically, so sometimes the glow is overlay where it's going to darken the darks and lighten the lights. But sometimes I want to use something like screen where it's just lightening everything in general to give me atmospheric perspective or to push back things so that they're low contrast, so that the high contrast stuff will come forward and be more attention getting, more of a focal point. So glow and gradients are really great ways to softly adjust contrast and light so that you can control the visual hierarchy of your piece. Like what is getting the attention first? Okay, so obviously I've darkened the top and the bottom to reinforce that this is the focal point. Even though I've left some of this glow down here because I want there to be a little bit of glow, and they are catching some of that blue light underneath. But in general, this is where it's at. This is the point. Okay, and again, here is an example of me lightening up something because I felt like the contrast between these areas and their kind of value range versus the value range behind them was too high contrasted. So I'm softening that. And then really going in with the glow behind them. Here I'm doing some kind of like detailing and stuff in the focal area on top of what I already have. This is what I mean about like I tend to go back and forth with flat line art and painting when I'm trying to do flat line art. The day that I just produce just flat line art, I wish. Okay, and here again, multiple overlay and screen layers to create the light source that is going to emphasize the focal point. So darkening, I've got some glow down here at the whale, a little bit of that green glow. But a lot of darkening to kind of create a vignette, and then some spot glow like the eyes of the birds there. Okay, so you can kind of see that's what I'm doing. And here is the worst thing that digital art does to me, is giving me options. So I went through a bunch of different color options because I'm indecisive. I ended up going with this one because I felt like when I made this, I think it was in the fall, and I liked the spooky vibes. Because there are some spooky parts to this book that I really love. But as you can see, just so many variations on the colors. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions, just ask them in the comments.